Test your might.
Fuck are you talking about?
Test your might.
Zach, do not fucking break that brick.
Test your might.
I'm not even fucking joking, dude.
Test.
God
your
damn it,
might.
Zach, stop it! Fuck! I fucking hate you. Fuck you.
What? I was saying test your mic. Welcome back once again to Pouring Pixels. He's Crotto, a permanent fixture in your spank bank.
He's El Zago, the conqueror of the nether realm in your nether regions.
And we are here today to talk about Mortal Motherfucking Kombat.
That is right. Mortal Kombat is an iconic fighting game that started back in the early 90s, and it's still going strong going into almost 2020.
Exactly. If you take a look at this eclectic fucking version of games in front of us right here, we see that it has spanned the test of time. It has survived the ages and continues to do more today as we're experiencing a new release coming out soon.
Yes, that is Mortal Kombat 11. However, we're going to talk about the original trilogy, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, or you could say the ultimate one, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3.
That's right. We feel that the original 3 games are a true testament to Mortal Kombat. Once you get into Mortal Kombat 4 and Deadly Alliance and Deception, it starts to lose its way a little bit. We break away from the 2D format and we start finding things like 3D walking and complicated weapon systems that really didn't quite click.
Yes, that is exactly correct. Now, in Mortal Kombat 1, it was very simple. It was the smallest amount of characters. It only had 7 at the time.
Right.
When it went into part 2, which is my personal favorite of the classics, the roster grew quite a bit, and they went into Outworld at that point.
Right, and it became more diverse at
Yes.
that point too.
Yeah, because Mortal Kombat 1, for example, only had one female, which was Sonya, and she got put like right at the end of production of the game.
Right.
Which is part 2 had like 2. Or actually, it had some secret characters, but
Yeah, exactly.
part of the normal roster.
Exactly.
And then you had 3, which is, I believe, your favorite.
Yeah, 3 is absolutely my favorite for a multitude of reasons, and we'll get into that. Mortal Kombat's 1, 2, and 3 were representative of a part of time in our lives which was truly special. And even though it's something that's ultimately familiar across gaming communities worldwide, it's something that we want to feature today because it's truly near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah. And now, I'm an old guy, my lifetime has followed the video game revolution almost to a point.
Okay.
As I was a very young kid, we had Atari growing up when I was really small, and then I went into the Nintendo, Sega Master System.
Damn, Grandpa, you gonna tell us how it was in the olden times?
Of course. Let me tell you here, right here, honey.
You whippersnapper.
Get off my lawn. But I went to the 16-bit era as I got older, as I got into high school. And right as I started high school, Mortal Kombat and the arcades were huge.
Absolutely.
Now, let me tell you about my 3 favorite years in the 90s.
Wait. There were 10 years in the 90s, and we're going to break it down to the top 3?
Top 3.
Dang, let's do it.
1992.
Okay.
I started high school.
All right.
1993, I was still a sophomore in high school. 1995, I was, going into my senior year to end high school.
Right, so we're skipping that awkward junior year phase.
Yeah,
right?
that year sucked.
Fuck that year.
And it has nothing to do that my favorite football team happened to win Super Bowls in those 3 years either.
What can I say? Dallas Cowboys, what?
What? But 1992 was Mortal Kombat 1.
Right.
1993, it was Mortal Kombat 2, which is my favorite. 1995, it was Mortal Kombat 3.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's a lot of different things that's really great about Mortal Kombat in terms of how it's representative of the times. Taking a look into the original characters of Mortal Kombat, you have characters like Johnny Cage, who is basically a pseudo ripoff of Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport. You had Liu Kang, which is very clearly the Bruce Lee of the venue. And you had a couple other characters that took...
Yeah, Raiden was from Big Trouble in Little China,
Right.
so was Shang Tsung. And Sonya was inspired from Cynthia Rothrock, which was a huge martial artist in the 80s and 90s.
These real-life characters, these real-life actors and actresses, and these real-life movies that were popular in the culture at the time were representative in Mortal Kombat. Now, Mortal Kombat, the original, was also the first to do a few things. So you had other video games out there like Pit Fighter that still featured video-type motion capturing, where they would actually film these actors and then take their motions and turn them into interactable characters within the game. Mortal Kombat wasn't the first to do this. What Mortal Kombat was the first to do was add mystical elements beyond what the human body was capable of.
Right.
They were the first to take this technology and add a fireball. Was it the first time we've seen a fireball? Absolutely not, but only in animated fighting games.
Yes.
This was the first one to really take the fantasy aspect of what is possible in a fighting game and add it with that realism of video motion capturing at the time.
Now, another game we've talked about, like, what, 2 times in our past, Street Fighter?
Right.
Which was inspiring the fireballs, like we were talking
The
about.
projectile systems, right.
Street Fighter was a freaking contestant to Mortal Kombat. They were rivals in that time. And Mortal Kombat, I mean, there was so many clones of Street Fighter, but Mortal Kombat was its original game, and that's the only one that challenged it.
Right.
Yes, and you know, if you go back to the arcades, you see the Street Fighter machine, the Street Fighter 2 at the time. You'd see Mortal Kombat, and those machines were the ones that were packed.
They had lines
Yes.
going out of them.
Right.
And I think in this country, Mortal Kombat is particularly special because it is an American-developed game, unlike Street Fighter and Capcom over in Japan. Mortal Kombat 1 was developed in 10 fucking months by only 4 developers. I almost did 3 like that. I almost fucked it all up. By 4 developers in a time span of 10 months. They did things that other games in development at the time weren't doing, and they had enough momentum that it spawned a litany of sequels.
Not only sequels on the arcades, but in consoles. I mean, as you can see, we got like Super Nintendo, we got Genesis, we got Game Gear, we got PS3,
Sega Saturn.
yeah, PS4, Vita. There was N64, there was Amiga, I believe, there was PC. In fact, the footage we have today is the arcade perfect ports on the Xbox 360. Yes, and you'll see some footage here in a while, but it was on pretty much everything, even the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Game Boy had a version out as well.
Yeah.
Like all other long-lasting intellectual properties in the video game industry, Mortal Kombat saw a lot of evolution in a small amount of time. In 4 years, we had Mortal Kombat's 1, 2, and 3, and each one of them brought something uniquely different to the table. Starting off with Mortal Kombat 1, this game featured hyper-violence, actual red human blood that was even censored when it came to consoles, and you had to have the classic ABACABB code, also known as ABACAB, to input it. And then I don't even believe it was in the NES version at all. It was not, right? On top of that, you had fatalities. What's Mortal Kombat without fatalities? It's just another fucking fighting game is what it is. Mortal Kombat fatalities was a way to truly end your opponent with disgust, with fucking rage, man. If you fucking pulled off a fucking fatality on somebody in the arcade back in the day, then you fucking hated that person. It was the biggest fucking middle finger you can have. But this game had so much going on for it, as popular as it was, it also caught a lot of bad attention, as this is the game credited for starting the system we now know as ESRB.
That is correct. Not only Mortal Kombat, but Night Trap. ESRB was a big debate back in the early 90s with the government versus violence in video games.
Absolutely.
Which, you know, it was just a clusterfuck. But anyway, going on to Mortal Kombat 2, some of the things that they did on Mortal Kombat 2 to kind of like, you know, kind of negate a lot of the violence is not take itself so serious. They added things like babalities, they added things like friendship.
Right.
They added things like animalities, just kind of like, you know, just kind of like for the lulz.
Offering more. Animalities came later in MK3.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had an expansion of different endings that you weren't limited to just ripping someone's fucking head off.
Right, they still had the fatalities, but they added other options, just kind of like, if you wanted to end your friend, you know, whoever you were fighting in the arcade differently, you could do like a belly, just kind of laugh it off.
Right, it was actually kind of more embarrassing to have a fatality done on you. You know, at least you could kind of go out in a true Shogun Samurai fashion if someone hits you with a fatality, but just to hit you with a friendship or babality, dang, that was the ultimate disrespect.
Yeah, now Mortal Kombat 2, like I said earlier, is my favorite one. Now the first one had the pit, but this one had the pit and it had the acid.
The acid stage,
The
right?
acid stage. It had a bigger roster. It had a lot more secret hidden characters. I believe Jade's Oak.
Yep.
It had the whoopee. There's so many like hidden little Easter eggs in every Mortal Kombat, even in part 1. But part 2, they really grew exponentially.
Absolutely. And then when it came to Mortal Kombat 3, we saw an evolution of the game that took place in a different direction. Where Mortal Kombat 2 didn't take itself so seriously, Mortal Kombat 3 refocused on the gameplay. Mortal Kombat 3 was the title to, again, expand the lore, expand the character roster, and expand the capabilities of the game. But what they did was add it to the fucking gameplay by adding the run button and a combo system.
Yes. See, combos were getting big in the mid-90s.
Right.
And that was the introduction to Mortal Kombat and to getting the little combos, mainly because of another game that inspired from Mortal Kombat called Killer Instinct.
Absolutely. Killer Instinct really took the whole combo scheme and ran with it.
Yeah.
And we'll save that discussion for another day. But make no mistake, the connecting combo system that required a series of button presses within a fighting game was revolutionized, even pioneered by Mortal Kombat 3.
That is correct.
When you're a franchise like Mortal Kombat, you don't make it this long without pissing a few people off. Ed Boon and company have had a few missteps along the way, and we saw these things as early as 1995's Mortal Kombat 3.
That is right. They left a couple of key players out, and it pissed off a lot of our fans.
Myself included, shit.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about people like Raiden, Jade, Kitana, Melina, the Masked Sub-Zero, and more importantly, Scorpion.
Scorpion, which is basically what we now know to become the title character. If you take a look at Mortal Kombat today, NetherRealm Studios is literally signified by Scorpion, and in the third rendition of Mortal Kombat, he was completely gone. Now, like you said, there was an unmasked Sub-Zero, which meant we were losing all of our ninjas. What the fuck happened to our ninjas? When I think Mortal Kombat, I need to see some motherfucking ninjas.
Yeah.
Not a missing Scorpion, a fucking dude that's unmasked with a dick mark on his fucking face, and all these robots. Where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, they replaced with ninja robots, which were not doing it for me. I'm sorry.
I saw where they were coming from, right? You had characters like Cyrax that had that net projectile that would grab you and bring them to you. So a yellow ninja robot with a retraction projectile. They're basically trying to recreate Scorpion.
Right.
However, one thing that I will give these guys credit for is that they did realize the error of their ways nice and early.
Yes. So they did end up releasing Ultimate Mortal Kombat, and they corrected that mistake.
That's right, Scorpion came out of nowhere with his fresh hot keto goodness. However, that was kind of the end of an era.
Yeah, even then 64 had that adventure game with Sub-Zero, which absolutely sucked.
Mortal Kombat Mythologies.
Yes.
It was unfucking playable.
Yeah, so they were gonna make, there was plans to make a mythologies and represent the storylines for a lot of the main characters, but after the failure with Sub-Zero, they just kind of ditched the project.
And I'm glad we did. If I had to sit through another fucking Mortal Kombat Mythologies, I'd rather fucking fatality my goddamn self, right?
I mean, it was an interesting take on it, but it was not working.
Now, Mortal Kombat and its franchises and its runners did do some things that we enjoyed early on that we kind of wish they continued. Namely, the comic book series.
Yes, and kind of to like, remind you, like, that.
First of all, look at this relic right here. By Williams Midway Electronic Games. Jesus.
So back in 1992, if you went to the arcade, you saw this address that popped up, send this much money to this address and you get a free comic. I still have the original letter from 1992. And
what's inside?
Yeah.
What's inside, Prado?
What's inside? It's got a little bit of water damage at this time because it's been like, what, like
28
years or something?
Yeah.
But here it is. Mortal Kombat 1 comic book, Mortal Kombat 2 comic book. And I still have them. I found them when I went back to my hometown, but this is freaking amazing. As you can see, it's got some damage, but you know, whatever.
At the end of the day, Mortal Kombat brings together a lot of classic characters which we grew up loving, right? There are fantasy defenders of Earthrealm. And because of this, as well as their dive into the comic book world, that inspired us for this week's beer, which is Brooklyn Defender.
So in this episode of Pouring Pixels, we got Defender IPA, which is our episode's first IPA beer from Brooklyn Brewery.
That's right. Brooklyn Defender IPA. When I first saw this beer, I was like, Brooklyn Defender, like, are we fixing to drink fucking Spider-Man or some shit? No. But Brooklyn is actually the name of the brewery itself. As you can imagine, it's from New York. And this beer is actually really interesting as far as IPAs go. At first glance, there's a lot of things going on about it.
Right. As you can see in the box, there's a lot of little action going on, which reminds us of the Mortal Kombat comic books. However, when you see the bottle, it's very simplistic. It's just a little circle with a B. It looks very like baseball themed almost.
Right.
But it's very recognizable, much like this circle with a little dragon from Mortal Kombat.
Right. So you have this circular, identifiable logo that's all over your product, right? A lot like what's recognizable within Mortal Kombat as well. Diving into it though, the real reason we paired this beer with Mortal Kombat is what's inside the bottle. And what's inside the bottle is pretty fucking fantastic. This is an IPA, so right away you're gonna expect a heavy taste of hops, right? And this IPA does not lay low on the hops. As soon as you take a sip of this beer, it punches you in the motherfucking face with it. However, that pain doesn't last too long. It then smoothly combos into this kind of fruity taste, right? But it has a really bold finish.
Yes.
That's what I like about it. And before we got our lips on this beer, we were reading a lot about it, and every review, every tasting, everything stated how it had a bold finish, a pronounced finish, a strong finish. And in terms of video games, when I think strong finish, bold finish, I think motherfucking fatality.
Finish it.
Right. So I feel like drinking this beer is equivalent to playing around with Mortal Kombat. It's fast paced, it has a system about it, it flows easily, and it finishes strong. Not only that, like Crado said, there's all kinds of comic book art all over it, kind of a direction we kind of wish the Mortal Kombat guys would have kept going as well, and everything about it just kind of comes together. This particular beer to me was meant to be when it comes to playing Mortal Kombat.
That is correct. There you go, folks. Mortal Kombat, classic brutality. We had to make an episode of it.
Right. This video game is near and dear to our hearts, so we really had to go out of our way to make sure that we showed it that kind of love. However, when you're a game franchise that spans 20 plus years, you have so much content, so many stories behind it, that there's so much information we couldn't get into today, especially not the amount of time we have. Do yourself a favor, if you're not familiar with Mortal Kombat, become a fan, and become a fan quick before they're all just ninja robots.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. That's going to do it for us. He's been Crado.
He's been Ozako.
And you've been fan-fucking-tastic, YouTube. Thank you for liking and subscribing.
Get off.
We'll do better next time.
No.